Why did 1960s anti-war protests use varied tactics? Imagine a time when young people and activists felt so strongly about ending a war that they tried everything to get their message across. That was the 1960s, a decade full of change and challenge. The anti-war protests during this time used many different methods because the movement was driven by a sense of urgency and frustration. At first, many protests were peaceful and organized, inspired by the civil rights movement. People held marches, sit-ins, and teach-ins to share information and show unity. Students would gather on college campuses for teach-ins, discussing the war and its effects, much like civil rights activists had done before. But as the war dragged on and more young men faced the draft, frustration grew. Some protesters started to use more dramatic tactics to grab attention. They carried signs, waved flags, and chanted slogans like, "Hey, hey LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?" These actions aimed to make people stop and think. The counterculture of the 1960s also played a big role. Many young people rejected traditional values and embraced new ways of living. They wore long hair, colorful clothes, and experimented with music and art. This rebellious spirit showed up in protests as well. Some demonstrations included flower power, music, and playful acts like passing out water pistols or blowing bubbles. These tactics weren't just for fun. They symbolized peace and love as stronger than violence. As the movement grew, so did the variety of tactics. Some people burned their draft cards to protest being forced to fight. Others held vigils, fasted, or blocked entrances to government buildings or draft offices. Sometimes protests turned confrontational, with clashes between police and demonstrators. These actions were controversial but reflected the strong feelings of the time. The different tactics also responded to how the government reacted. When officials dismissed peaceful protests or claimed the war was going well, activists felt they had to do more. They wanted their message to be impossible to ignore, whether through peaceful marches or bold, theatrical acts. This mix of tactics helped the movement reach different groups of people. Peaceful marches appealed to families and older citizens, while more dramatic protests caught the attention of the media and younger audiences. This diversity made the protests more visible and helped shift public opinion. Looking back at the 1960s, these varied tactics show how people believed they could make a difference. The protests weren't just about stopping the war, they were about creating a society based on peace, justice, and freedom. The creativity and energy of those years continue to inspire today.